he is, Mr. Bill Bubba Bussy. Bubba,
Glad
hello.
to be here, Rick.
Hello, Bubba.
And what an honor it is to have in studio with us again today, Mr. Frank.
Frank Caliendo has returned,
There's
not
a
just
lot
to
of-
the phone.
No, there's a lot of truth to that. It's great that I'm here.
We've been looking forward to this, almost like you go, hey, your cousins are coming back. We're like, what day?
We're happy, but we were concerned
We
because a lot of times when people come through here on their way up,
Right.
we never see them again.
Right.
And then when they circle back around, that means,
Well, this is just
maybe
a-
things are not
we
going
haven't
as
seen
well.
Zach Brown band in years.
This is just a huge mistake. I actually talked to Speedy, and I scheduled most of the southeastern part of this tour was based on being able to come in here because I don't come to the southeast that much. I don't know why.
You're loved here.
These are your people, Frank.
Yes, that's what I was thinking and trying to get people to be on board with as well. So I talked to Speedy, and it was originally I was going to be here on the Thursday, I think, of this week, but then a corporate show popped up, and I had to rearrange everything. That's why I go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah. So originally it was supposed to be a little bit more in the, what is the Atlantic East? What do they call that up there? The Baltimoric.
I don't think they call
not
it that.
good at
The
geometry.
Eastern Seaboard.
Geometry throws me off. It's geography, Mr. President. Whatever.
So that's the difference between him and Donald Trump. Trying to be like, let's just call it that now. We're going to call it Baltimoric. All right? It's going to be that. If you don't like it, go jump in a lake, which is not going to be hard today because there are lakes forming everywhere.
They really are. Yeah, because you remember, did you watch Sesame Street growing up at all?
Yeah.
Do you remember the one of these things is not like the other?
Yeah.
One of these things does not belong. When I saw Nashville, Birmingham, Huntsville, Charlotte, Washington, D.C., it just doesn't.
Are you doing something with Trump? You just can't
Yeah,
tell
but
us.
he's
Is that
actually coming
it?
to your show tonight, right?
I don't think. Could you imagine that? We're going to shut down everything. I'm going to pop into Zanies. It's going to be a tremendous show. You're not going to believe how magical it's going to be. It's going to be Harry Potterific. So I did that Potterific. It's incredible. I'm doing that with all kinds of words these days.
Yeah, I think Frank's got something going on with Trump. He just don't want to tell us.
No. I stay away. Any politician, any side, I just stay away.
Yeah, let me
as
tell you
far as
something.
I can. I have nothing to do. And I
So
talked about
I
that
want to
in the
be sure
show.
I got this. So you have a big show in Nashville tonight. It's sold out, and the president is going to be there. And
Not at the show, but
But he's going to be in the neighborhood, and there's going to be all kind of roads closed.
Well, I can get through because I can just be like, listen, let him through. It's going to be fine. It's Caliendo.
I mean, he says your name. I mean, that's when he'd dive right in.
Frankie C. Frankie
He'd hip it
C.
up.
Frankie do. That's a foul on you. Let him through. Come on. You may pass. This is.
All right, so Nashville is sold out tonight.
Yeah.
But you're going to pick up another Nashville show later on July 10th.
Yeah, because I'm in Chattanooga on the 11th.
Okay.
So that's only a couple hours away. I'm learning my southeastern geography.
really are.
I was really pretty bad at geography because people always ask me where I started doing the impressions. And one of them was my history and geography teacher, Mr. Christensen, in Wisconsin.
I bet you terrorized him.
Oh, well, he was also the basketball coach. So, and I didn't play basketball basically because of height, not because of skill. I could have been a tremendous basketball player. So he would always go, we're going to shoot some free throws, get tired, shoot some more free throws. But then he'd go like, we'll go to the map. Our resident expert, Mr. Caliendo, please come to the map. Point to me where Chattanooga, Tennessee is. And I'd point to blue, and he'd be like, sit down, Mr. Caliendo. So, because I had no idea. I was like every American geography
It's like
student.
one final dig at him referring to New England as Baltimoric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like one final dig at Mr. Christensen.
But I don't even know who I was going to be there. I got lost. That happens. It all collided. It was like the first time that ever happened was with Robert De Niro and Rick Moranis. And I was trying to go, I am the keymaster, you the gatekeeper, but my head turned sideways. I am the keymaster, you the gate. Who am I right now?
Yeah,
Slipped into
some
Robin
of those are
Williams.
too close together.
Oh,
yeah.
it happens. Sorry.
People do that too. Like I'll do a show and like Robin Williams, the passing, his that's a tragic ending to one of my favorite,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
like a hero of mine, right? And then I don't do that in the show anymore, but people yell it out.
Yeah.
And it's so odd because guys are like, do some Robin Williams. Like, oh no. And then the women are like, that's so sad.
Oh, right. See, that's one.
So and that's what it is. So it's like,
I grew do the bearded one where you win an Academy Award, you know? Have fun. Just learn something. Goodwill Hunting.
I can watch you all day.
you can. I mean,
When his face becomes that person.
When you add the face, it really becomes bizarre.
it used to be weird because you wouldn't want to have facial hair
Yeah.
as the person who did any impressions.
right.
And now everybody has facial hair.
Right, it's
Like,
back.
It's cool. It's the caveman look.
Yeah,
We got it.
Thanks, Duck
This
Dynasty.
took me thanks. This took me like 15 minutes. That's how Italian I am.
Speaking, well, maybe we should come back because we must talk about Morgan Freeman.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
talking about when you're doing impressions and you don't know what's going to happen. People pass away.
Well, that's-
people get in controversy.
It's tough too. Are we waiting for it to come back, or is that a tease, or should we go into it?
Slight tease.
Because I'm just working on my radio skill again.
No, just just that slight tease. Because people are thinking, as soon as you popped on the air, everybody was thinking, is he going to talk about Morgan Freeman? So
Well, that's okay. so-
Stop! Don't even say it. Don't say a word. So I was going to finish.
you could
the
be
thought
George
about
Bush
the
talking about it.
geography.
He's going to
teacher.
ask me questions and tell me not to answer them right now.
But is
Zip it.
Is the geography teacher, is he still living?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's possible.
Do you get back to your home and high school much?
I'd been back a few. It's been a while now. No, I'm trying to forget a lot of the high school years.
Well, I wanted to, like, are
They
these
put a
people
statue of you up.
are these people seeing what you're doing for a living and no one's surprised?
I think it's probably 50-50. I was really quiet until about 9th grade or so. Maybe 8th grade. Then I kind of came out of my shell. I always wore a collared shirt in grade school. And
Mama said
I'm
to.
the complete opposite now. Yeah, I was the kid who never got in any trouble. Not that I really got in trouble when I got older, but I didn't get into any trouble. I was quiet. I would cry if I got anything less than an A, so I cried a lot.
You cry more than Glenn Beck. Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why I was wondering is because Bubba and I actually had Spanish class together, and the professor whose family had fled Castro said she considered returning to Cuba after dealing with us, and I actually had and my wife and I strangely talked about that this weekend. An English teacher that made the comment to me that she hoped that I would consider at some point there were no jobs available that would pay me to sit around and make wisecracks. And so I saw her years later, and I asked her if she'd ever heard the radio show, which she, with no reservation, said yes, and it makes me want to drive my car into a tree. And I said, please tell no one you learned English from me. And so I think that Mr. Christensen, when he heard Baltimore, it might have been that moment for him.
Caliendo, I don't know if that's a word. We'll talk to some other people and see if we can have it coined.
Did you do impressions in high school, or was that later?
A little bit of in living color characters and stuff like that, but not my own kind of impressions. Yeah.
All right, we're going to unpack the situation with Morgan Freeman next. Probably the one that has become people holler it probably the most now, don't they?
It's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Absolutely.
15 minutes past. Frank Caliendo's with us.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba.
20 minutes past the hour, the Rick and Bubba Show. Frank Caliendo is with us. The tour begins tonight, Nashville, Tennessee, as far as the Rick and Bubba footprint. It is sold out. I don't know why I keep telling you that. Am I doing that to frustrate you? But it is tonight in the Music City. Birmingham, coming up this week, June 1 and 2, this weekend at the Star Dome. Great room to see Frank. If you don't have tickets to that, grab it. On the 3rd, Huntsville, and then Charlotte, North Carolina on the 4th. He'll come back to Nashville. Now this has been added on July the 10th because he'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee on the 11th. And then we get into North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, Greensboro. All of those dates are available. Florida, also here at the front end of June. Clearwater, Orlando, West Palm Beach, Dallas, Texas, late June.
Did you say West Palm Beach?
I did. And
Another
also
connection.
another connection. And
Mar-a-Lago.
and of course a place that the Rick and Bubba show is huge, San Diego.
Yep.
Also in the middle of all that. So check all that at frankonstage.com. All right,
Now tonight, Rick and Frank's not saying this, but I am. It could be a very special night on stage.
Here he goes.
So I mean,
Here he goes.
Let the rumors begin. Trouble.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah.
No, I have no ties, and I don't think that would even be good.
but you've met the president.
Yeah. I think I told you this. It was years ago doing a sketch. In the middle of the sketch, it breaks down and something went wrong. He's like, "Is this okay? This seems okay. Is everybody having fun? This seems good. It's good." And everybody's like, "Yes, Mr. Trump. Fantastic, Mr. Trump. It's great, Mr. Trump." I was like, wait. Does anybody ever say something isn't good? He goes, "No, and that's part of the problem. I can't get real answers." So, and
Did Rick tell you we got invited to the White House?
Did you?
Oh yeah. We went and hung out. And he actually called, I played that for you. He called in on the show. We've done 2 interviews with Trump, one at the White House with him, and one he called the show.
And then I
didn't
did an
realize
event
that
in
was at the
Huntsville.
White House. That you're doing a tremendous job.
Yes.
The 2 of you.
Yeah.
I have never seen anybody with less potential do more with it.
A lot of truth in that, by the way. We've made a living at low expectations. You know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. That's kind of
that's kind of okay. So that's kind of what I say is like when I'm going up on stage now, and a lot of the stuff I'm doing on stage is working on things. But because people are paying money, I don't want to just get up there and only look at a notebook. I think that's the worst thing to do to an audience. So I'm mixing a lot of different things in, but I basically say when I get up there, lower your expectations. Let's have some fun. We're going to have some conversations and play. Then I'm going to do it like all the shows. I've been doing meet and greets afterwards, saying hello, taking pictures with people. I'd stopped doing that a few years ago because when I was in Vegas, just the drunk people got to be too much. It was just grabbing. Speaking of, that's kind of Morgan Freeman-y right there. But people just grab you, and you're just like, what? Hello?
Right. Yeah.
Knock, knock. Who's there? The truth. I need you to step away.
You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's been really great. And last night was in Atlanta, and then basically I did Atlanta because I had to fly into Atlanta. And I knew that I could get here within 2 hours, minus rain issues.
Yeah,
but,
you don't have to say the T. It's just Atlanta.
I did hit it hard, didn't I?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because it's in there. You probably should say it.
You guys skip over it completely. Atlanta. Just vowels to you guys.
So the Morgan Freeman issue.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that baby.
Because that's last night. The joke that I did, and I'll probably continue to do, was essentially people asked me, "Why do you want to get away from only doing the impressions?" I said, 2 words: Morgan Freeman.
Oh, good.
Because when you look at this, and this keeps happening, a lot of heroes, guys that I've looked up to forever, and thought this is one of the greatest actors of our time, so amazing, and you're finding out that they're human, and not only human, they're not the greatest of humans at times. Now, I've seen some stuff. I always wait. I think we jump to conclusions so much. You have to believe. You have to believe these people that are talking about stuff. But then I saw Entertainment Tonight run something, and it was just Morgan Freeman just seemed more like the creepy uncle than like a
criminal.
He's like, you look pretty good. Because like what was Morgan Freeman thinking? He was thinking, I'm Morgan Freeman. Right. I can pretty much say anything. And until now, I was able to get away with it, Sonny. Truth is, I'm not going to be able to be Morgan Freeman the way I was. And I had him in my act.
Frank, you just slammed out of character so quick. It's like you hit the brakes.
Yeah, just knock. It's just good. But it's that. That's the kind of truth that I'm trying to find in my act, as opposed to just making up scenarios all the time. It's trying to find those little things. And I went with the audience, and the audience went with me last night with it, and I did some more Morgan Freeman stuff because I had him. He's played God in
a couple of movies,
and he seems godlike. And the joke that I would do is, Morgan Freeman, it'd be stressful when he dies. He's up in heaven like, well, God, how do you think I did? And God looked back at him, I thought you did pretty well. But now it's got to be, how do you think I did? Well, you did pretty well in the movies, but there's something we need to talk about. So there's that. Those realities are what I'm trying to find the fun in that, the funny in that truth. And there's a lot more because that's coming from me as opposed to just making up some little scenario out of nowhere. Like, here's Al Pacino as a grasshopper.
I'm hopping mad.
So which actually would be a pretty good one, right?
Think of that. How did Al Pacino's a grasshopper?
I just think it'd be good. Come on. We got to get this group, and we got to make our way through this field.
Gosh, this is so.
That's amazing. I know.
Who just come up with that? But I want to make the point. The society we're living in now, unfortunately, and I'm certainly not saying that Morgan Freeman's behavior was okay.
Or even innocent. We don't know. That's the problem. Is we don't know if
But
he's
we
innocent
quickly
or-
made him Harvey Weinstein like that. And everybody said, whoa, wait a minute. We're not saying that kind of stuff happened. Or Bill Cosby. Oh, whoa. We didn't say he's drugging people and all of these horrible things.
Bill Cosby was the safest impression
Yeah.
in the world
Oh, my
to do
gosh.
5 years ago or less. I mean, it was the and now I am sorry, Your Honor. It's like, what the heck?
Well, now what happened? Bubba and I saw it. I remember when the trickle first started coming out, and it was a comedian, like Greg said, that got it started, got on stage saying, why has no one ever talked
with
about
the Cosby, Hannibal Buress, right?
Yeah, with the Cosby thing. And I saw a guy write an article, and he said the reason why Bill Cosby has not been held accountable for this behavior so far, and it changed, is because if we were honest, to your point, no one wants to live in a society where Bill Cosby is a sexual predator. You just don't want to think about it.
Right.
And when it happened, it's like, oh my gosh, if Bill Cosby is this dark, what kind of world do we live in?
But there's definitely,
And I know he was acting, but still, it was just something.
right.
hit.
But there's a reality to. I mean, Hollywood is all fake when you think about how
True.
fake everything is.
That's what they do.
yeah. So
They get paid to be fake.
and I don't have a problem with. Like, I don't care what anybody does. You can't infringe on somebody else's rights. That 100% you can't do, I don't think. But whatever somebody does in their own world, that's fine. But I just don't market yourself. That's the problem. That's why Tiger Woods came down so quickly. Is Tiger Woods was marketed as the clean-cut, super good guy, and it turns out he's not that. So if you're marketing yourself as that, that's the hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy that I have the problem with. It's somebody that tells me I'm better than you because I care about the environment. Look, I have a recycle bin on my private jet.
Yeah.
Right. Like, no, the private jet cancels out
All the
recycle
recycling you
bin.
can do.
So I don't care. But if you're going to preach that, like a Leonardo DiCaprio flying all over the world, well, I don't want to be bothered. I'm special. Well, that's the point is, well, you don't get to call yourself special. You've got to live like everybody
Are you
else.
actually telling people to have integrity?
No. I would never do that.
Like, don't say one thing and live another?
This rain has got me down.
More Rick and Bubba coming up right after this.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
And you can catch the rest of the tour by going to frankonstage.com, which includes stops in Nashville again, Chattanooga, Greenville, Greensboro, and you can check all that at
I've
the
never
website.
been to some of those clubs before. That's kind of the cool thing,
Oh,
too.
good.
Chattanooga is the Comedy Catch. Is that, I believe, the Comedy Catch? I've never been there, heard great things about it.
Yeah.
Zany's, of course, I've been to a couple times, and a couple of these comedy zones in South Carolina, Greenville and Greensboro. Once again, I have no idea which is which, what state they're in.
Be careful with that.
Well,
Yeah,
Because
we know
we've had-
friends who've
we've had
made
some
mistakes.
friends
Yeah.
that got the two.
Got to the wrong green.
Really did.
That's a golfer.
Yeah.
That's an errant.
it really. I've told that story, but and there they are, and you doing them back to back, which is very scary.
Yeah, I'm going to call a few people ahead of time, make sure I'm guided in the correct direction.
A friend of ours is supposed to be speaking in Greensboro, North Carolina, comes out to the lobby. You know where this is going.
I just have to look down.
You have to look down, and he gets text from his ride, says, "Hey, where are you?" And he says, "I'm in the lobby. Where are you?" "You're not in the lobby. I'm looking. I'm standing here." The woman behind the counter leans up and says, "Where do you think you are?" Because I guess she's seen it so many times. He says, "Well, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina." She goes, "Incorrect. You're in Greenville, South Carolina."
Yeah.
And
were they about 3-4 hours apart?
Yeah, and he knew right then he would not be making the gig.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
And he tried. He said, "I tried everything, but I couldn't come up with any scenario that I could get there on time."
That's why I've started to teleport.
It's so much quicker.
Right.
I mean,
Frank.
if you could just invent stuff,
Right, yeah.
life is so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
Frank, we were talking in the break, and I was shocked when you said how long it was that you did the pregame show.
27 years. No,
So you did 9
Nine
years at Fox,
years.
and then how many at ESPN?
4 or 5. I'm not exactly sure because it got to a point where they would ask me to do something, and they still do every once in a while. I'm like, it's something I've done already, so I feel like I'm not getting anything new out of it, and it's not going to be interesting. So let's just pass on it. But I think when this is one of the possibilities when Gruden goes to Vegas, when the Raiders, just him and Celine Dion going, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my entire life, man. Tear coming down. Celine Dion, I will always love you too, man. Come on, let's get on a sinking ship and stand and can't be kings of the world. That's going to be tremendous.
Tremendous. So, yeah, that'll be hard to pass up. That's almost too much gold.
Yeah, that would be that's right there. And I met Derek. I actually met Derek Carr with Gruden doing the quarterback camp years ago, and I messaged him back and forth at one point. He's like, "You got to come out and do the Gruden for the team." I'm like, "I think you're going to have enough, Jon Gruden."
Yes. You're going to have all you stand.
Yeah, it's because he is a monster. I mean, he's actually quite nice, but he controls the room. He walks into rooms like, "I'm going to take over this thing, man." He's got that look on his face.
Yeah, I know.
Like
The look is the key.
The look is he's going like, "I'm going to just shoot laser beams out of my eyes, man." He's got kids. I do this. You imagine reading a bedtime story to his kids? I'll tell you what, man. I would not want to be Goldilocks when those 3 bears return. Get some sleep, big guy. I'll see you in the morning. I don't understand why he's got to go to therapy so much, man.
Yeah, so he'll be a big hit out there. But we were discussing in the break because a lot of us, and you go where you want to on this, use your own discretion. But a lot of people are kind of starting to get turned off by the whole ESPN slant on everything. It's like they become so. There's an article just last week that it's destroying the product, that they've become so political and paranoid about what they say and don't say.
And the cable cutters and now all the services you can pick your channel and people are not picking them.
Yeah, the thing I've found in all of sports television is that the sports people are really bored with sports.
Yeah.
And I was part of this. I'm going to call it a problem, but I was part of because that's part of my own hypocrisy where I was going, I like to watch the sports, but then I'm like the fringe stuff around the sports and realizing, wow, I'm a walking oxymoron, not just a moron, right? So I think what happens is producers are always trying to find something different and do something different and find the story because the sports don't seem to sell enough to them. But a lot of people do just love the sports. So I think that's the difficult thing. I mean, how many times in like a local newscast, producers do this stuff all the time, and they do it in sports, where they go over to Bill with traffic and they really just turn the camera and the guy's in the same room. It's like, why do you need a different look in the room? If you're ever in these studios,
right, yeah, they're very
it's
small.
like you guys just have this is your whole studio. But in some place they'd put up a green screen and 2 other little cardboard cutouts and pretend like they're in completely different buildings.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other.
I know.
Just to get a different look in the background. I just think a lot of that stuff's silly. But what do I know? But yeah, I think that's the thing I think about sports is a lot of sports people are bored with the sports, and some people don't really want to be in sports. They have ideas of being in the movies and directing and that kind of stuff. Some of them have the talent too, but there's just so many people that want to do that job. Well, you funnel into sports and that's where you're at. But sports creates a lot of what we see, technologically. A lot of replays and slow motions and stuff that's happened in sports ends up finding its way into everyday media, entertainment media. But there's such a merge, entertainment and sports, which sports is entertainment, but there's such a merge of it now. Like, I don't know how much, like James Harden last night loses that basketball game. I don't know how much he really cares. I know he's going to be at the club later, but it's like the guys are multi-millionaires, and it's their brand. Everything's branding.
Right.
Like that's the funny thing to me is everybody's got a brand. I go to the grocery store, the guy, bagging the groceries is, working on his. He's told me. He's like, you that guy that does voice? Yeah. He goes, oh, I'm working on my brand. I'm like, what's your brand? Paper or plastic? What? Why do you need a brand? Like, I don't understand why people need and that's what social media does. It gives everybody's just trying to get likes, and I think that's a weird thing for society. Like, we're all trying to be. Like, if I wasn't in entertainment at all, I wouldn't do any of the stuff. My son doesn't have any interest in it at all, which I think is great. But then again, he can't even talk to a person with looking at them. And he's 13 years old. He can't talk to a person without an Xbox headset on. That's when he becomes like, he can hold court if he's got that thing on. But if he's not that, he can't. Like, my son looks at people like everybody he looks at has a really bad toupee. Like, he's just like, get eyes down, eyes up, eyes down, eyes up. So I don't know. I and that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to work on and find the me stuff in my head. But to me, some of it's funny, but it's almost like I'm so used to being the jovial, cherubic fella doing all the silly stuff that when you go and you talk about real things, sometimes people have a little bit of a difficulty getting that. But what I'm doing is trying to mix that stuff in with how people know me and trying to find the merge. But I'm not comparing myself to him, but George Carlin was a guy who went from being like the hippy dippy weatherman to like having to like really talking about what's going on in the world. So I think it can be done. It just takes some time.
But you've been out there. Has there been enough dates for you to kind of see how it's?
I'm starting to feel how it's working.
How's the crowd responding to it?
People like it more.
Great.
Because people like, in this day and age when you can see behind the scenes, people really like to see a little bit of failure.
Yeah,
and I supply it.
Yeah, I have no issue.
We got plenty. You can borrow some of ours if you like.
You just explain the success of the show.
There's truth to that, though. There is reality. You guys are yourselves, and you guys have always. I mean, This was the first show, and probably the only show. I think it is the only show that I've ever come in, and the host said, let's do some liners for coming back, rejoins. Let's do it right now. I go, aren't we on the air? You go, heck, yeah. We got to fill 4 hours.
People love that stuff.
Yeah, they do. And, I mean, that's before reality TV, and now people like to see the stuff behind the scenes. But that seems to be my phrase that I constantly use. The problem is now we set up the behind the scenes and they reshoot it's got to be real. It's gotta be real.
And messy, and the cameras can't look
the
too
mistakes,
good.
Yeah. And people try to make that happen and make it look behind the scenes. It's not really behind. You can watch a show and go, oh, that was a mistake, or you watch them going, and now I think I'm about to spill. I spilled. You're like, no, that's obvious that
the made-up bloopers are not really bloopers.
Yeah,
with perfect lighting.
You're right.
Bright light, no shadows.
All right, we'll come back. Frank Caliendo, he's just going to be hanging out with us today, too. I mean, so we've got more time with him. Our number's 866-WE-BE-BIG. If you want to talk to Frank, you can. At 866-WE-BE-BIG. Lines are available.
And, Rick, I want to know Frank's most awkward moment.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, through the years.
Speaking of 4 hours to fill.
Talk about besides here?
Yeah. Also, we'll recap the Rick and Bubba royal wedding, all to come.
Rick and Bubba.
But Frank Caliendo is with us. Bubba, you asked a question, and Frank's on tour, Nashville tonight, Birmingham this weekend, Huntsville, Charlotte. We go also to Nashville again and Chattanooga, and then all into North and South Carolina. Find those dates, frankonstage.com. You were asking him a question going to the break.
Well, and we've asked Frank this before, but it was, a long time ago. When you do an impersonation of somebody, they can either be, very complimented about it, or they can be offended.
Flattered or offended? It's
yeah.
Fine line.
Have you had that situation where someone was unhappy or you felt uncomfortable? Because I know you're sensitive to that. What was the worst?
Yeah, I try to listen. I try to do the impression for the person, because once they see that it's what the joke is,
right?
And they get it, and they get a piece of me, they understand where I'm coming from. And I'll even do the joke, I'm not doing this to be mean, I'm doing it to make money.
Right.
But people, the sports guys, the sports people, there's honesty to that.
Yeah.
The sports people are put on pedestals their entire lives, like treated like heroes. That's the thing. And then from their buddies, that's where I see they don't mind people messing with him. Like a Hall of Fame basketball player doesn't mind another Hall of Fame basketball player messing with him, but some guy on the sideline, like, who are you? And I kind of get that. You've walked a mile in my shoes. Is that the saying? I don't know. I'm turning to you where I'm like, I've walked a mile in your skadoodle, which also a great drawing.
Yeah.
You could draw circles instead of just stairs. I'm tremendous with the skadoodle. What was the question?
So you're saying most of the people that you've had a little bit of pushback have been sports heroes that have been put on pedestals, and they're like, hey, you making fun of me?
Yeah, and I think they're worried about their bottom line as well. Some of the people are worried that it's going to hurt their chance to do endorsements. The guy who gets it the most, I probably told you this before, Charles Barkley.
Yeah, he didn't care.
Yeah.
He loves it. He's like,
Frank, you gotta keep doing me. Why is that? Because every time you do it, I make more money.
Yeah.
and he's like,
I tell everybody, let Caliendo do an impression of you. You have no idea how many commercials you get.
there is reality to that.
Well, Frank, will you do me a favor? Will you work on your Bo Jackson and do it to him? Please. This is an inside joke, but I want to see you do it to him.
Oh no!
What
Is he that serious?
Well, Bo
Depends on the day.
Bo every time we interview Bo, we have a blast. And the last time he was on, which was like 2 weeks ago, he was great.
But talk about a guy who was not just put on the pedestal.
Yes.
He was put on the pedestal and flown on a rocket ship.
The world's greatest athlete.
Yes. Own it above Michael Jordan.
But I just wish you could
recently
do an imitation.
Does he talk about stuff in the third person? Is he?
No, that was a long time ago.
Does he still do it?
Not as much.
I didn't seem to do it as much.
Okay.
Now you see, I'm getting afraid now.
Yeah.
Well, Rick doesn't know if he does.
I just
I had no comment.
His daughter's in town. Careful.
Yeah.
No, I
Might
just
be
want to
listening.
see it because he's just a unique guy and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of it.
It's funny you mentioned it because we were discussing it over the weekend. I mean, and I want to be sure. Sometimes we'll say things we're like, is that really true or did I just make that up? Is that he is the only human being so far, the only one ever to make the All-Star team in 2 professional sports in the same year. I mean, I'm in the All-Star game for baseball, which by the way hit one out.
Oh, and he was the MVP.
Still remember that.
Yes, and also in playing in the Pro Bowl, all in the same.
Which
year.
was his hobby. Football was a hobby. Remember, he didn't even consider it a sport. I mean, his job.
So that puts you at a level that is just. I mean, I'm the best at 2 professional sports against the best in the world.
The marketing was crazy. It was unbelievable. And he was. I remember hearing people saying Bo Jackson coming down toward first base. It was like a freight train. Probably faster than that.
Well, when you're 235 pounds, you're 6'2", and you can run 40 yards in 4 seconds.
See, I can run the 40 in 40 seconds.
Rick,
I actually got in 38 once.
Rick, his first at bat, he beat out a ground ball to second base.
Yeah,
I mean that just doesn't happen. Much.
So it's just so that you've had a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I've never had that kind of success. So I can't even compare it.
Yeah, well, I was telling my wife again because I actually had a chance to play against him in high school, which was a thrill of a minute. Well, you have to understand the running and all that we all know, but he could do anything.
Right.
That's what made it so odd.
That's the amazing.
Well, when we played in the 80s, first of all, I didn't see my first specialized kicker till I was in college. No one had specialized kickers. So to see someone kick well was very uncommon in high school. A linebacker would kick. All right, he got it down the field far enough.
Right.
And let's go cover the kick or whatever. So Bo was kicking off for his high school team. Well, that wasn't abnormal. Oh, they're letting the running back and slash defensive end guy kick off. And I remember when he kicked it, none of us had ever seen a ball go into the end zone, ever. and so he kicked it, and the receiving team, we didn't even move. Nobody dropped back to block. Because the minute he kicked it, we just went, and we just started watching it.
It's like Gus
kicked it.
kicked it.
Sailed out of the back of the end zone, and we were like, he just kicked it out of the whole field. I mean, so we were just, he could do anything.
I didn't realize you'd played against him.
Yeah.
That's crazy to even think about.
Yeah, the famous line was from our defensive end that tried to tackle him, and who had killed people for 2 years. And he gets up and turns his face mask back around. He says, "Hey guys, we're gonna have to gang tackle that. I'm gonna need some help over here."
Yeah, like some new rules.
But tell him where he did the most damage. I think that's one of the most interesting.
They lined him up at defensive end, so we ran the triple option, which everybody did then. and we were running the triple option, so we don't even block the backside end because he doesn't have time to get there.
Yeah, he does.
Unless he's Bo
Bo
Jackson.
Jackson.
So my dad loves to tell the story. He was the head coach. He said, I get a call from the press box. And he said, I'm laughing. I said, where's this guy coming from? And he says, Coach, he's coming off the backside end. Quote from my dad, we don't even block the backside end. Quote from the offense coordinator, we're going to have to block this one. We will block this one if we want to get a playoff.
It's unbelievable.
That's where he killed us. He didn't score but like one touchdown running the ball, but defensively shut our whole offense down. If you leave us, have a good day. If you've got more Rick, we'll be back.
Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
We be big. Here's Bill Bubba Buss.
There he is,
All right, let's run down. We're
right next to Frank.
Frank, we're getting, dates are selling out.
Yeah, I
Dates
just
are
got a note that
selling out.
Huntsville's essentially sold out, I think, since I came on here this morning. Looks like there's one ticket left, which...
Somebody please go grab it.
Yeah.
Please,
Well,
somebody grab it.
Somebody add one.
One ticket.
Somebody add one. I think that's a better chance than looking.
Yeah.
That's what you do as a comedian, though, right? You go to the movies by yourself and stuff. So maybe a comic will come see me.
That's funny.
Some up and coming.
Well, let's run the list. Zany's in Nashville tonight, sold out. Private gig in Washington, D.C., right? Is that a private gig?
That's actually the DC Improv, but that's
Okay.
that's sold out as well.
So that's look at me, I'm selling out.
I sold out years ago. No idea.
So then we go to Birmingham, June 1 and 2, Stardome. That is the Stardome. And it's a big room. And,
Great room.
And you got 2 nights. And so that one has still got some
That's
seats.
got some seats left.
Stand Up Live Huntsville, we think, sold out except for
Looks
one
like it's
ticket.
sold out, yeah.
Maybe somebody please add one and take your friend. Did Cassio get a ticket?
Yeah, well, there you go. Maybe he wants to go.
The Comedy Zone, June 4th, Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's a Monday, so that's got some tickets left. I
Okay.
know.
A Monday.
Yeah, I'm just doing all these weeknights, and then
Okay. I just
and then you see this Florida run. That means I'm going to Disney and Universal with my family.
That's funny. Clearwater on the 9th is Capitol Theater. Orlando on the 10th is Orlando Improv. West Palm Beach is West Palm Beach Improv. That's on the 15th and the 16th. Dallas, Texas, Addison Improv. That's June 21. The American Comedy Company in San Diego on the 27th. Columbus Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio on July the 9th. Back to Zany's, and we do have tickets for that now.
Zany's does have tickets
July
left,
10th.
yeah.
So if you miss tonight, then go.
And then I believe the first show in Chattanooga at the
Comedy
Comedy Catch
Yeah, you're right.
is that's close to being sold out already too now. So
And
there's
that's
a second
July
show
11th.
there on July 11th.
So
yeah.
we got a second show, and we're starting tickets on it now.
Yeah, and then
And,
the Greenville, South Carolina, I believe is sold out.
It
They
is.
might-
The Comedy Zone is sold out.
There might be a second show that's getting added to that. Then Greensboro, that Comedy Zone.
Also a Comedy Zone.
yeah,
Not to
so-
be confused.
Right.
Yeah, like,
And
Yeah, really.
And you know what?
And are they both the same name too, Rick? Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
Oh,
they are. It's like the same
my
name.
gosh.
And in 2 different states.
Frank,
oh my
please
gosh.
read the fine print.
And also the Comedy Zone at Lake Norman is sold out on the 12th.
Good night.
yeah,
Frankie.
I'm selling out in advance.
Yeah, that's got to feel good. I'll kid
I'm a
aside.
big deal.
That's got to feel good.
Well, a lot of it is what I did was I went to the smaller rooms, but they're all mostly on off nights. What was really great about the Stardome in Birmingham this weekend is that Bruce let me just do some single shows, and because I didn't want to do, I just want to do a show for the most part, and then think about it the next day, as opposed to sometimes because I'm not doing my normal act. I mean, parts of my normal act are in it, but I'm really trying to think through things and do things differently. And I didn't want to look at the same back of the room for a whole weekend because, like, the agents and stuff, like, just go do the whole weekend somewhere. I'm like, I don't want to do that because I'll get stuck just looking at the same back of the room. I want everything to change.
Got to
Just
be new.
the drive. I'm going back to the roots. That's why after shows, spending time saying hello
Little
to
grip and
everybody.
grin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Bruce could paint between days or something.
That's good. So there's where tickets are available and where they're not available anymore.
Yeah.
So I would move on this. The more we grind,
I think so, and that's why I appreciate it.
yeah, I mean, that has to feel good, especially when you go out and try something that's a little bit
And like at
different.
Zany's tonight, you said President Trump will be
In town.
In town, so get there early because they'll probably have some road closures and stuff like that. But I'm going to start promoting like Donald Trump does. Zanies fits about 300 people, and there'll be no seats left, but 10,000 people outside of Zanies trying to get in. That's how big it's going to be.
Yeah, because everything with him is
Over 1 million people were in Zanies. It only seats 300. 1,300,000 people.
I love the lips.
Yeah, I've got to pull up our Donald Trump drop and just. I mean, you're so close. Matter of fact, I played this and we did the deal on the air. I think we told you about this. And Helmsy, who's been with the show 10 years now.
Yeah,
Well,
10 years.
He was like, you don't know how many things I thought were the real people. You've ruined it for me now. To tell
really
me
did.
that was actually Frank. Because we did it, is it Frank or is it real?
Oh, did you?
And people would call in, and you wouldn't. Helmsy missed how many? You missed like
Jack Nicholson got him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thought that was real.
Got a lot of
Really?
Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman thought it was real.
You're just
Madden, I thought it was real. And what's funny
By the
is
way,
I had actually seen you at the comedy club.
Do it. And
prior
the
to being
same
a part of
words.
this show.
You're just not a smart guy. Is what
No, not at all. Well, that's why I'm here. I can't do anything else.
Rick, I thought his Tom Landry was real.
Oh, Greg.
Okay, Greg.
Oh, can you hear? We're going to play.
Listen
We're
to
going to
that.
play this for you.
Y'all stop.
You know how sometimes somebody's a legend, so you just let things go
Can't believe
because they're a legend.
Right.
Well,
You don't correct a legend. So
Hope he pulls up
Tom
his
Landry, God rest his soul. By the way, let's all remember he's dead.
Yes.
Tom Landry
Yeah.
was on the show.
The legendary coach
we were
of the
stoked.
Dallas Cowboys.
So we get all, just like you told everybody, how we are the only show you've ever done. We do the liners on the air because it just saves time. And plus he's on the phone.
I didn't
And
even think about that. You
Yeah.
guys don't have to stay afterward for
Right.
extra show prep.
Well, used to we
Speedy's
couldn't.
like, you got it. That's what it is.
Used to we couldn't record them in the production room either. So that's really when it started.
We don't fit in the production room.
right. Well, here's the thing. Not only did we not correct him, we play it. So that's the worst part. It's one
just
thing
let it
not to
go.
correct him and go, I trash that. We didn't correct him, and then we play it. So here it is.
This is Tom Landry, but you're listening to the Rick and Bubba Show.
Now, is that Frank or Tom Landry?
Frank or not.
A lot of shows would not use that.
I think all shows would not use it.
Yeah, most professional shows.
It's one of our favorites.
But to you, it's
This
better.
is Tom Landry, but you're listening to the Rick and Bubba Show.
And they looked and they said, "Okay, Coach, thanks."
Thanks, Coach. Good to talk to
We
you.
were also scared to tell him we messed up, too.
How about them Cowboys? All right, so this is the one when Trump, of course, Trump can't just call the show and do a liner. He's here it is.
This is Donald Trump. You're listening to the Rick and Bubba Show. Rick, he's the one who talks a little bit more than Bubba. Bubba, fantastic job with what he's been given. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Rick, listen, he could talk almost as long as I can without making sense and keep going. I love what they do. Rick and Bubba, the two sexiest fat men in radio, and possibly the two sexiest fat men alive.
That's me.
Now let's
I
hear.
can tell because it was a little high. It was a little
But
high.
it's so funny. I was watching you try to decide if it was you. that was fun to watch.
Well, I thought it was me at first, and then I started to question, didn't you set this up differently? And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm on candid camera.
Yeah, what a little trickster.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the real deal.
This is Donald Trump, President of the United States. Honestly, I think this is the first radio show I've done as president, if you want to know the truth. And you're listening to the Rick and Bubba Show.
See how he went up at the end, but he's down for
Yes, it's a little area. It's a little bit more like this. I remember when I was doing the sketch with him, I was doing it my way, and then he was doing it his way. And I started to talk more like him and tried to sound exactly like him. And the producer's like, no, keep doing it the funnier way. But isn't it great when it sounds just like him? It's like,
So weird.
Not really, yeah.
and
that
that's
sounds
that's one of those where I would have chosen to do it differently than the producer wanted to do it, and that's like that goes back to what we were talking about. So many times in TV, they edit and change what you think would really be good. I'd love to be in the editing bay. I've never once been in the editing bay for a Fox sketch that I did or an ESPN sketch.
You just
So
had a
it's-
bad deal.
well, yeah.
You should
I
have
mean,
demanded last
well, here-
right of edit on that.
Well, you're never gonna get that. But also, if I'd done it at ESPN, I'd have had to go to ESPN,
Right.
And they would always come to me and shoot it. and going to Bristol, Connecticut.
Yeah,
was brutal.
Did you ever look at your wife when one of these would run, and then you go, "Okay, I had lines that were funnier than this," and you had to start to do the lines you wish were in there?
Most of the time, because she'd look at me and go, "What was that?"
Yeah, wives are. It's a whole different audience.
It's awful.
Do you imitate your wife? I saw that.
Yeah, she.
Careful here.
There's different voices. My wife is crazy. You guys probably don't know what that's like.
Not at all.
My wife, the other night, she gets out of bed and she goes to the bathroom and comes back pretty quickly. And I was like, "What? Are you okay?" She goes, "I was looking for cake." And I said, "Well, you went to the bathroom." She goes, "Yeah, and there wasn't any cake." And I said, "Okay," because she's sleepwalking.
Now you're awake.
She's sleepwalking, and I can't get back to sleep because I think I'm in a dream, right? I was like, "Okay, so what happened?" She goes, "The soap fell." I go, "You're crazy. You're insane. You're talking insane right now." She goes, "And you're being mean." And I said, "Okay, so I'm." Like 2 hours later, she goes, "I have to get up and go to the bathroom." And I said, "No, you went earlier." She goes, "I didn't go earlier. Don't tell me I went earlier because I have to go." I go, "Well, the soap's going to be on the ground." She comes back from the bathroom. She goes, "How'd you know the soap was on the ground?" I go, "I saw it when I was looking for cake." Bring it back. And that's real. That's real. That happened.
Do you ever get in an argument with her and start break into Morgan Freeman where she's
Well,
arguing
now
with
it would
him?
be really bad. If
Yeah,
I go,
well,
I guess there's never going to be any love in this situation anymore.
Sadly, that's an exact quote from Morgan Freeman.
Honesty hits, right? That's true.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba way by stopping and hanging out here at the Rick and Bubba Broadcast Plaza and Teleport. Tonight, Zany's in Nashville sold out. So the Stardome Birmingham, as of right now, still has tickets for this weekend. Huntsville sold out. Coming up on the 3rd at Stand Up Live. The Comedy Zone, Charlotte, North Carolina. Check that one. And then you can see all of it, frankonstage.com, to see if there's tickets available to the date that you want to see. And we got a caller standing by has got a question for Frank. We'll get that on. But I do want to talk a little bit about, we were talking about different people you do impressions of, how they take it. And you now doing a stand-up routine that certainly has some impressions in it, but it's not all you do anymore. It's kind of a new tour, new idea. You're just doing some stand-up comedy, but you have people shouting things.
Yeah, and I want people to understand this too. I would do when I was kind of doing the same act over and over and over, and some of that stuff is still in here. I'm kind of reworking it as I'm doing it when I'm not doing the new stuff. But I would do about 45 minutes to 50 minutes in a show. Last night I did an hour and 15, so it's a bigger, longer show. So you're getting some of the new stuff here and some of that stuff, but it's a long it's a long show. The longest one I've done so far is an hour and 25. So. That's the other thing I like about doing single shows on the weeknights too, where I realize people have to get to work the next day, but it's not like doing one of those like Dave Chappelle kind of sets where he goes for 3 hours and,
right, yeah.
and people start leaving. And my audiences are very polite too, and it's really nice because nobody ever's like they're like I'm like I gotta go. They're like, no, do more. I'm like, but this has been an hour and 15 minutes already.
Enough
They're like,
already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're enjoying it. So.
Always leaving wanting more, Frank.
Yeah, no,
really.
not that. No, I'm against that.
Right. So
look, I'm supposed to be here for one segment today.
Yeah. So you were talking about you had an issue with Lou Holtz.
Well, it wasn't an issue. A guy in the front row played for Lou Holtz last night, and somebody in the back yelled out, "Do Lou Holtz." So I think everybody
he played for Lou.
Yeah, and that's the correct. Played safety for him. The guy was huge. I was like, "You played safety, man. You were ahead of your time."
Right.
But so the whole thing with Lou Holtz is for anybody who knows what he actually sounds like. There's just a kind of guy who just goes out there and says. And I was like, when I was in college. I was
when he
just
slams the brake on it.
But think about that though, because this, and Lou Holtz talks about this. Yeah, I talk like this. Somebody has the funny way you speak, but that's I'm a motivational speaker now, only in America. You know. So he talks about that. I'm not trying to make fun of the way he talks, but when I was in college, I was sarcastic and a jerk. And if that was my coach, I couldn't imagine playing for him. They'd be like, "Yeah, I got to go out there and do it." I've been like, what's he saying? Everybody like, I don't know, but we're gonna win. And the guy that was in the front row last night, he's like, that's exactly what it was like. He's like, we had no idea half the time what he was saying, but he said it so motivationally. Maybe he's speaking in Morse code. So he tells me a story.
But Bubba's the only one that's going to roar at Morse code humor.
So this is the guys tell me, he's like, you can use this. I'm like, I don't know if this is something you use, but I'm like, this is perfect to talk about on Rick and Bubba tomorrow. So he's talking about and seriousness here of the events and stuff like that, but 9/11 and stuff like that.
Okay.
This is right after 9/11. He's playing for Lou Holtz, I guess, and he says. I'm hoping I'm getting all the dates and times right, but it was something very serious like that. And then Lou Holtz comes on and goes, I guess we know we got problems. We got our guys over in Vietnam. What? He's talking about Vietnam. And I'm like, what? He's like, he was talking about Vietnam? He's like, yeah, we didn't know what he was talking about. Are you sure he said it was Vietnam? He's like, no, we weren't sure. And sometimes why? That's why I love the vowels. Lou Holtz has actually made me tear up right now. I don't know what it is or why. And this is the only guy who went from winning a national championship at Notre Dame, ended up coaching at South Carolina while still wearing the Notre Dame hat. That's how nobody's ever done. I tell you about being coaching at South Carolina, but I'm still a fighting Irish. I do that. I just always do Lou Holtz doing different theme songs. I did him doing Game of Thrones. Look out for the dragon.
Dragon. Calling out of Illinois, Fatso. What's up, big guy?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Great show this morning.
Thank you, man.
Frank, I've got 3 grandsons in this politically correct world now. They're getting in trouble at school, and they call me Hey Biggin. They're like, Biggin told me to do this or that, and you know, we fart on each other, and they're getting in trouble at school for farting and everything. Blame it on Hey Biggin and all that good stuff. Are you having to tiptoe around this politically correct society now?
Well, it's a good question. A lot of people are, Mel Brooks even came out not for saying, how's comedy going to survive
really
this?
Great question, framed kind of awkwardly.
Maybe you should just ask the question.
Welcome to Rick and Bubba.
Maybe what you should have done.
It's good to be home, isn't
it? Maybe a permission slip letting them call you. What do they call you? Biggin.
I mean, hey,
if that's what it is, listen. If the person has no problem with it, why is everybody else offended for it? Sometimes it takes on the person's own identity.
Right.
If somebody likes that, and that's it gives them who they are. And possibly heart disease.
Right, yeah.
but
comedy...
But I think it's difficult. Yeah, I definitely
comedy's
think
got some issues now.
What I try to do is set up and tell you where I'm coming from on it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working on more. I'm probably trying to do this at the worst time to try and find my own personal point of view. But at the same time, I think that's why I'm doing it. I'm just so sick of... people just generalizing everything as being negative. When we talked about this a little bit off the air, there's the great thing about cultures is that we're different. And then when we find things that are different, you go, your family does that, my family does this. Why do you do that? It's ridiculous.
It's funny.
Yeah? But it works, and you go, oh, we're kind of the same.
Yeah, it's just, and what's so sad is really most of the offended stuff isn't sincere either.
No, and people are.
They think they're supposed to be.
Like I've done an accent that's like, how you doing? As you go to what's going on? We'll tell you later.
So Frank Caliendo is with us. We were going to the break, and awkwardly you were run over by the hard break when we were discussing the fact that now, and a lot of people bring this up, political correctness is getting to the point that comedy I mean, could there be a point it's eradicated from the face of the earth?
Is it just declared hate speech?
And right now, then you have to figure out what's allowed to make fun of and then what's not allowed.
I think it all comes down to your intent, and if you can set it up properly and talk around it, you can get all the people. But I like I started to say, you make up an accent like you're talking like this sounds because you're gonna something going on right there. It's like.
By the way, that was a little bit of Robin Williams in there.
But somebody would be like, I could just imagine somebody being like, "What accent is that?" I'm not sure why, because they want to know who to be offended for.
Right?
That's right. What's your problem?
I like when we're offended on behalf of people.
Yeah, for somebody else.
Yeah, it's
That's
not even
the majority of it.
Like you need to really know who you're offended for. That doesn't make sense. So. I think we're in a difficult time, but I think it'll just be overload at some point where people will be like, it's just too much. You don't care. I see some
of us are already there, Frank.
Yeah, I see some of that happening. But it really is. To me, it comes down to: are you trying to say this group of people who's different than you is worse than you or bad, or are they just different? And different is good.
It's funny.
It's like they're telling
different
you.
Is funny.
Right. And that makes you different too. That like I'm different from you. We find those things and we say, well, there's actually some commonalities in these differences. We have these same feelings about things. That's cool. You laugh about it, you move on. We're losing that, and I think that's the difficulty.
Yeah, it is, because that was fun. And I think it's going to actually, and Bubba, you've made this point, I think it's going to actually have a generation of people who don't know much about other cultures because we weren't allowed to talk about them.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that.
I mean, there's some coolness, and when you're around people that their culture has these unique items that are actually very interesting.
I start to have trouble talking to you when you have the glasses down that far down your nose.
Let me try
How
this
are
one.
they
He looks like a geography. He looks like a geography teacher.
Let me try this, Caliendo. but it really, to me, that's fun.
What can you see when they're that far down your nose?
Well, it's only for this.
I'm looking at my mustache.
He's making a bifocal out of it.
Yeah, I don't need to. I see you fine. It's when I look down. So
all right.
I look down at how many sold out dates there are. I have to do this.
Well, that's what I like to hear.
I knew.
I can see that from here, Rick.
But it is. I'm thankful that you do come back. So many don't.
Those people, they're losers.
Yeah. We actually at one time had a conversation. Do you think this Zach Brown band things? We're having them on the show too much. We literally had that conversation.
Right.
I mean, they can't. They're coming by again. This chicken fried's never going anywhere. But they did all right. Didn't they?
Rick, there were several in that category.
Can I tell you what was funny, though? Is they actually,
Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah, that's right. We started with Larry the Cable Guy stood outside the window one time and we wouldn't let him on. Hey, could you?
That's what that's all about. That's going to be to get my way in there.
Well, then we had that terrible night that he talked to us in his regular voice, and that I wasn't ready for that. That really blew
Rick,
my mind.
I don't even remember that.
My mind.
You blocked it out?
My
I
mind was just one of these. It's like, wait a minute, what is this?
Wait a second, you're not Mater?
That was it. Because my kids were that age, we were watching, seeing the movie then.
You didn't even see him as Larry the Cable Guy. You saw him as a broken down truck.
Yeah.
That's all you saw.
That's true. But anyway, we had, I guess you heard us talking, we had a big wedding this past weekend.
I've heard a little bit about it.
It was the Rick and Bubba royal wedding. Greg's daughter, Chandler, got married over the weekend, and it's been, your weddings, wow, weddings. And there was afternoon thunderstorms in the forecast, and we were discussing, you're really looked down upon if you don't get married outside now.
Really?
Yeah. If you go indoors,
and you
it's
got to do
frowned
it
upon.
in the Alabama summertime when you have a storm every afternoon.
Right.
Yeah. Be sure and do that. Schedule it right in
Well,
that time.
you can't do it in the fall, Greg, because you get into college football.
That's
my
good. That's
friend.
a fact.
Keep that.
Let's have some priorities.
Yeah.
No, you do not go against college
Because
football.
see, and I had a friend get married, and he got married on the third weekend in October, and that was historically Alabama-Tennessee playing. It's a big game.
Right.
And he said, well, it's only 1 year, we can. And I said, you realize you're going to have an anniversary on that date the rest of your married life? And he looked at me and never thought about it. He said, oh, no.
Yes.
I'll never go to the game again.
Yeah, and I will tell you some things about the wedding, and I know Adler's was there, and you have to, and there's some dynamic within the show that you may not be familiar with, but the audience is watching Adler, because Greg is Adler's nemesis. It's like he gives Adler a very hard time. Adler was the one who told Greg and I, people didn't grow up like y'all. Yeah. See, Greg and I thought we grew up normal. I told you about my dad a little bit in the break, and I always thought that was normal. That was normal for your dad to stand there in the door frame ask if anybody could move him, and then you'd run at him, and he would crush you and knock you down.
Or when you cut your toe halfway off, he tapes it back on.
He taped it back on with athletic tape.
Yeah.
Like I told Frank, and I saw you laugh. My dad thinks no one's ever truly been sick or injured. They're just weak. My dad walked to the ambulance with a blood count of 8. So and rode shotgun. But I'm not getting in that ambulance. But anyway,
I'll sit up front.
Yeah,
let me drive.
So he was there with his flip phone, of course.
Taking wedding pictures
to capture wedding pictures with his flip phone. So it was. I will tell you.
What is the resolution of a flip phone?
Frank, 10K.
It's got to look like Atari 2600.
Yes. You should see him. I mean, people are taking these big photos, and also you look. Hang on a minute. And
they all got back in their pose.
We'd all pose as if it was going to turn out. And we do. I love after he got done. Greg, look, he give it a look, fold it. I got it. So I was. There was a lot of. It was kind of emotional. I mean, first of all, you don't know what Dad's going to do. That's always a wild card. And Greg, there was a point that Adler was. Adler was laughing like this strange giddy laugh. When Greg actually did the father-daughter dance with his daughter, which is a very moving, emotional thing.
He was wanting to catch me crying. That was his thing.
Everybody wanted to see if Greg would cry or that I would take the squalling, because Bubba says that Burgesses don't cry, which we normally don't.
It's a genetic thing. They don't have tear ducts.
Right. But Bubba's quote was that he thought I could watch a penguin be put in a blender and never even shed a tear. But anyway,
which is a little drastic.
Of course.
That was a long time ago. I said that.
Quite an analogy. But you know
so
what?
Much has changed.
Did you see though how Frankie went? Oh, I get it.
Frank teared up. I mean, come on.
Right. But
I think John Madden was crying.
But boom, Adler looked at me at one point when Greg was doing the dance with his daughter, and people were all squalling and looking, and he looked at me. And he said, "This is what it was like when the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes."
It broke the little scope.
He goes, "I've never seen Greg in this light. He seems so normal emotionally right now."
Yeah.
But what was that like?
It was tough.
Just the whole
thing was, I was about walking her down the aisle.
Oh my God,
was hard, but I nearly tripped, and that saved it because it jarred me back in reality because I almost fell.
Yeah,
and it's tough. And the funny thing,
who was the guy in the suit in that picture?
I know, really.
The Grinch.
Rick did the service. He actually, and my daughter was tickled about that. And the day before we were doing rehearsal, and I walked, how you will go through it, and there stands Rick. And I said, "Look, I've envisioned this day in my mind for years, and you weren't in it." You were not.
That part was not
and
there.
you did an outstanding job.
Well,
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying during the initial.
I totally get it. I didn't envision myself standing there at your daughter's wedding either.
Yeah.
But it was an honor. But there were so many miraculous things that happened. I mean, rain was in the forecast all weekend long. And I was kind of riding up there, and you certainly don't want to test God. He's very clear about that. But on the ride up there, I thought, the people that are praying about this, you're really not going to let it rain, are you? I mean, there's just too many people on this that are warriors and have proven that they got a good relationship with you. And I started thinking, start from thinking it's absolutely going to rain to almost being defiant, going, there's no way it's going to rain. Mm-hmm. And not only did it not rain, rain was everywhere, all around us. Even one that had that red mean storm looking.
Red touching yellow.
As the service started inching its way to the ceremony, and then it dissipated. And then God really showing out, a rainbow comes on the other side of the barn. And we're all just like, wow, God's just like, it's really showing out on this. So it was
quite a day. Everything went good. My wife survived it.
I'll come back and I'll tell you what it was like from my point of view up there too. Greg, I think your trip was also designed to keep us all together.
I almost fell on my face.
If you don't nearly fall walking your daughter down the aisle, I wasn't prepared. Bubba, I'm going to tell you almost had the moment you've been waiting on.
Yeah.
It almost happened. So we'll come back. We'll recap the Rick and Bubba royal wedding, and everybody kind of give their perspective on that. Adler's got some great pictures he's putting on RBTV, and Helms has got some of those out too. We'll be back.
Rick and Bubba.
Show Frank Caliendo, our guest. Check frankonstage.com. Frank's just hanging out now. We've done several segments with you if you missed it. Extreme Club members enjoy that today. But a lot of sold-out shows. Zandy's sold out tonight. The Stardom's got tickets left as of right now for this Friday and Saturday. We're sold out in Huntsville for the 3rd. Comedy Zone, Charlotte, North Carolina. Some tickets there. Check that one. And then back to Nashville on the 10th of July and Chattanooga on the 11th. But tickets are selling out for these shows, so you need to see it. And Frank's just kind of sitting in. We're talking about Greg's daughter's wedding this past weekend. A lot of people got a lot of great email. They enjoyed hearing from Greg's wife, Lisa, and even his daughter on Friday's program. So everybody was kind of the rain did not come. We were very, very blessed there. Didn't have any issues with that at all.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, sure.
This is something that this tells me how much of an outsider I am, because I heard all the beautiful stuff, and then you threw in the word barn. It was rainbow over the barn.
Correct.
Everybody kept going like that was completely normal. I was like, did you say barn?
Oh, wedding barns.
Oh, yeah. Wedding barn is the place to get married.
Now look, you don't picture cows and horses and hay.
Put it up there.
No, because why would I picture that around a barn? Yeah.
Well, you'll see the picture.
We had to milk a cow.
You mean in Arizona? They're not.
I grew up in Wisconsin. There's not. I don't know if there's cattle in Arizona, but
well, if you see this,
so you don't have barns.
Snakes.
Hey, barns are big business. Hey, the barns are big.
Look right there.
Yeah, they are.
Look right there.
Look at that.
We're looking on RBT.
They shut the door right before the horse got out.
Yeah, this
Look,
is.
and I'll be honest, I had nothing to do with the planning. My daughter and my wife did it all, and I thought it looked really good.
They did a great job.
Alexander's great events. They did the food. They did all the flowers, all the decorations. That all came from them. And they did a great job. And
why wouldn't you get involved with?
I was involved. It was
totally joking.
You know what I'm talking about?
There's no way you get involved.
Well, I picked the flowers, and I
look how
what
pretty
I always
it is,
wanted.
Frank. Look, it's right next to a creek, and I heard there was a few fish in that
Yes,
creek.
there are.
Somebody said
There-
There's Rick up there.
Well, it was one of these moments, and Adler's showing some stuff on RBTV, some video. Even Greg walking his daughter down. I thought I was kind of prepared. I realized that rehearsal is not the event. Because at the rehearsal, I didn't feel a lot of emotion welling up at all. But when I was standing there and Greg walked out with his daughter, who I've known since she was a baby, and then I'm standing where I was standing, I could see you, your daughter. Your daughter's crying because of she had just had some very emotional things happen that were very cool, involving mom, and there's mom and dad. And also another thing that happened that was real special to all of our family is that she was crying. And the emotion hit her, and then I saw you. And if you had not stepped off that sidewalk and nearly tripped, because the minute that happened, everything changed, and now I'm all into is Greg gonna fall?
Yeah,
because the emotion of that was
was
overwhelming. Now we also had an incident happen that involved Bubba. That at one time
I got this horrible news.
Yeah,
I mean that Bubba had been carted out of there.
The quote was he'd been carted out. I looked up and I could see a cart taking him by himself, not with his family, by himself to his car. And everybody said then Hunter, his son, comes up, and Betty, we got to go. Bubba's something's going on. I mean, I literally I'll tell you how bad it was. I thought to myself, did I pay the premium on the Keyman insurance?
Covered.
And so, friend, I thought, is Bubba having a heart attack? I didn't know it was so.
Well, then I saw his text and he got sleepy. So I mean, it wasn't that bad. So, appreciate it, bud. Well, hang in there.
Yeah,
good job.
When I saw the text of, "Hey guys,
go to bed.
Don't overreact," I was just sleepy.
Yeah.
I was
it hit him in the middle of the service.
It said a few other things.
I mean,
too.
he drove all that way. I do. I'm tired. I'm going back.
Yeah.
Maybe you send that out beforehand.
Yeah.
Timing is everything. Maybe.
Well, I looked down and it said allergies and lack of sleep, and I thought, wait a minute, Bubba left because his nose was running and he was sleeping.
And I wonder why he had to work all night. When did he have to work all night the night before? I didn't know.
Did we not work this day? So what happened?
It was mostly allergies and lack of sleep on the previous night. So it was.
So because of the allergies, you couldn't sleep?
Yeah, I've been struggling with it for about 2 weeks.
Right.
I've been snorting and sneezing, and
but when
it finally got the best. I mean, nobody wants to be around a group of people when your eyes are watering and everything.
Sounds kind of weak to me.
I'm glad my dad didn't find out about that. I actually told my dad you had a heart attack and crawled to the car. Which he said, well, he's excused.
Your dad had to think like, I guess that's okay.
Yeah. Well, did he? Did anybody have to help him? No, well, that's all right with me.
He got off the field.
It was
That's
a
right.
beautiful service.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it wonderful, and after we went back and had a bite to eat, my allergies got stirred up, and I was like, I'm just going to get out of here. I don't want to be standing here.
But you did get to eat?
I did have a bite before I left.
I didn't realize, Bubba, in Southwind Plantations where we had it, it's a beautiful place.
Really is.
Bobby and Ginger Watkins, and I didn't realize y'all had such a past.
Yeah, Bobby's one of those guys I've known a long time and used to visit with him every morning. When he ran the convenience store, I saw him every morning on the way to work.
And did business with the show when y'all were engaged.
Yeah. We did a lot of events.
Bobby goes way back
in the early years, and we good to get to see him again. Beautiful place, beautiful wedding, everything was great. But see, if I had known that, that was left out. The reason why I thought you were dying is I thought you skipped the reception.
I thought he hadn't eaten.
If somebody had told me you had eaten, I would have immediately dialed back my concern.
Well, see, the reports got a little out of hand, and see, I didn't want the reports to be about me. It was about the wedding. So Adler was actually in front of me.
Oh, he was the first one out. I saw him, and that was a good move.
That was early.
Yeah.
And when I looked up, and he was, I was behind him. I thought, I'm losing my touch.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Betty, who's always just so fun-loving and laughing and stuff, she came up to me with this serious look.
Yeah,
hey, we got to go. Bubba's not feeling well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, and what got me is when I looked up when she said that and saw that he was being carted off without them.
And Bobby was putting a wet rag on his head.
Yeah, I thought that's what hit me. I was like, wait a minute, this is bad. He's like saying, I got to go right now. I got to get to the car.
I was afraid I was going to see the ambulance pull up.
Well, I thought maybe a stomach issue.
Well, when you have allergies, that usually follows.
Yeah, so, I didn't know what was going on, but we're glad
we had the old triple header going there.
Well, it was funny because we were so hectic with all the pictures and all the stuff and staying there to the end till the couple left. And then so I'm getting in the car on the way home, and because, Frank, my phone went off at a friend's wedding, sadly, a few weeks before, Sherry took my phone from me, turned it off, and put it in her purse.
I wouldn't have went good.
The only thing worse with it going off at somebody's wedding is it going off while you're actually officiating the wedding.
Yeah.
And so on the way home, I said, has anybody heard from Bubba? I said, honey, turn my phone on to see if Bubba's in the hospital, whatever. And is it?
No, I was fine for most of it. Me and Helms were talking during most of it. I think I was.
That's
fine
what caught me off guard because he was perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden,
Mr. Sandman showed
Betty
up.
was a little concerned. You could see it in her face.
Oh yeah, and Hunter too.
She's usually laughing about stuff like this.
Well, when your eyes are watering, your nose are running, you're just not really want to be around a lot of people at that point. You have to take your sunglasses off because it got dark. I couldn't hide anymore. So.
Top of the hour. If you leave us, have a good day. For more, we got back.
Rick and Bubba.
The Rick and Bubba Show from the Broadcast Plaza and Teleport. A brand new hour underway. We thank you for being with us. Speedy, the real Greg Burgess, Helmsy, Eddie Van Adler, all here this hour. Rick and Bubba University intern. All right, Bigfoot, fire it in there. Taking your phone calls at 866-WE-BE-BIG, earning his degree in common sense. Special guest this hour, just kind of hanging out with us, the great Frank Caliendo, also here. And welcome back, Bill Bubba Bussey.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank all of you for being part of the Rick and Bubba family. We get married in barns.
Yes, if you just joined us, go to the Rick and Bubba Facebook page. There is a Facebook album on our Facebook page of some of the images and video from the Rick and Bubba royal wedding. And you can look at that and enjoy that. I know a lot of you saw some of the pictures out on social media over the weekend, and certainly there's one at our website. But now you have a whole album there at the Rick and Bubba Facebook page. Frank is on tour, frankonstage.com. We've been covering all of those dates for him. Zany's tonight is sold out. Birmingham's got some tickets available this weekend. Huntsville is sold out for the 3rd, and then Charlotte, North Carolina on the 4th at the Comedy Zone. Back to Nashville on July 10th at Zany's. Start those tickets now before those sell out. And then Chattanooga, the Comedy Catch, on the 11th. And then he rolls into the Carolinas. So we've got a sold-out Comedy Zone July 12th at Lake Norman. Greenville, you're sold out, too, for the 13th. There are some available for Greensboro, North Carolina, on the 14th. Again, frankonstage.com. And I will say this, looking back over the wedding, if you just joined us and Frank's kind of sitting in with us, the food was fantastic. I will say this: both the cakes came from Edgar's Bakery, big friends of the Rick and Bubba Show, and the bride's cake and the groom's cake were fantastic.
They really were.
And
I'm
they
still eating on it.
You saw me in my weak moment. I got a slice from each.
Yeah, you went wild.
I did
there. and I started screaming out to you, type 2 diabetes. But anyway, those cakes not only tasted good, they looked fantastic.
You hated to cut them.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things we were going to recap from the wedding. Helmsy, you experienced something involving Coach.
Oh boy!
Yeah, and,
Greg
and Amanda was involved, my wife.
Yeah.
First of all, when we first got there, undoubtedly, and I didn't know this, your wife, Sherry, had asked Amanda, hey, look, when the ceremony's over, can you come up front and take a picture of our family with my phone? I did not know that.
Correct.
So after, I didn't find that out till later. I strategically, anytime we're at a wedding, I always go and sit by Bubba. Not because I love Bubba, but that's not why I was sitting by him. I know Bubba's going to get to the food first.
No doubt. Mm-hmm.
And so I strategically...
Only Adler beat him to it.
I strategically go next to Bubba's family, but Amanda was wanting to sit up close. And I said, no.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get food. We sit by Bubba. We're in.
It's almost like a running back saying, I'm going to sit behind John Hannah.
I won that battle, but I didn't know that we were staying after the ceremony up front with you guys and taking a picture. So, therefore, we were up there, and we took the picture, and I told Amanda, I said, let's just hang out. I said, there's no sense in going to get in the back of that line right now. Let's just hang out and enjoy this, watch them take pictures, that kind of thing. Well, your dad, there is a thing, Frank, that we can't tell Coach Burgess no on anything.
And he's just known as Coach. He's not
Yeah.
even, did you call him Dad as a kid, or you just called him
only
Coach?
Okay. Everybody
and
knows.
so we've all had these stories where we get in these situations with your father, and we can't tell him no.
Right.
And Amanda fell victim to this as well.
boy.
So we're up front, and is it Bobby? Is bringing everybody root beer. And so he's got all these root beer. Well, evidently, some people had took a sip and set it down on the pew. Well, he heard Amanda mention that she needed a root beer. Amanda wanted a root beer badly.
This is back to the ribs again.
I said, we'll get to
his ability to serve is
we'll get to one in a minute.
Now,
We'll get one in a minute. Well, your dad went up, grabbed the one that had already been opened and drank out of, handed it to Amanda.
Oh, Lord.
And said, here's your one. It just took a sip. That's no big deal. It's still cold, everything. And your mom, Ganelle, is hollering, hey, don't you drink that, Amanda. Somebody's already sipped out of that. Well, Amanda's caught in between the whole,
please tell
do
me
I
she didn't
tell
drink
Coach no or do I drink it? Next thing I know, she's knocking it back.
Well, you don't tell
then he goes, I think I'm out of it. And
he made you drink somebody's too?
So he goes and gets another one that somebody has drank out of, brings it over there and gives it to me. Well, I can't tell him no, so I start knocking it back. And
your beer
mom,
goes to waste.
by the way, your mom is really frustrated with us because we would not tell him no and just go get a fresh one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, they did how about they were a big hit? My wife, she came up with all this stuff. I started getting cases of root beer delivered to the house, and I get to looking, my daughter's new last name is Jones, and you have the Jones sodas. Well, she has got the Jones soda brand root beer with their picture on it.
That was cool.
It's really neat.
And I was wondering, and that was Lisa's idea, and I was like, ain't nobody going to drink them. You know how I am.
Right.
The whole night.
Oh, they was a blowout. We drank
they were great. The whole night we kept thinking, who have we drank after?
Oh, yeah.
Like, who is
And then my
slobbering on
brother
these?
Who's sneezing somewhere?
Right.
That may have been what happened to Bubba.
It might have been. Coach gave him a root beer that went bad.
At first, I thought Betty was looking for a root beer. She was actually looking for her husband.
Right.
She didn't know where he went.
Well, the thing, Frank, you have to understand with
So he forced it.
with my
that's
dad.
so good.
About 3 times. We finally gave in.
Oh, you might as well.
These are arguments that my dad has had has had. This is to tell you how stubborn he is. He once told me that mile markers were not there's not a mile marker every mile. And he said, hey, I gave him directions. Hey, that mile marker you told me you was wrong. I said, no, Dad, I told you to turn at mile marker 58. There wasn't no 58. And I said, yeah, Dad, there is. I mean, and he goes, well, I'm telling you, it ain't there. And he said, I don't know how often they put these things up.
Often, yeah.
And I said, I'm gonna say every mile
because they're mile markers.
To which he said, nah, they don't put them up every mile. and so and you eventually just give up. I mean,
you do.
He once told my mom the first time the Surgeon General put the warning on the side of cigarettes.
Yeah.
That they were not on all cigarette packs.
He didn't want that with that warning. He wanted a different.
He said, I ain't gonna get those with a warning on them. and my mother said they all have the warning. He goes, no, they don't. We all got put in a convenience store. I mean, to the store. We all got put in the truck and had to be carried there for him to go in and take all cigarettes and show, just try to prove there were some that didn't have the Surgeon General warning. which he couldn't.
Right.
But eventually we all just gave in and said, yeah, you probably just couldn't find one. Yeah. I mean, so in Adler, you had experiences at the wedding.
I did. So Frank, that's the kind of father that Rick and Greg had. You got to be tough. Crying is definitely not allowed. And we all were, at least I was hoping Greg would cry at his daughter's wedding.
I was close.
Well,
did you get me?
You think there's a split second image. So first you can see
All right,
here's a
wait a
good
minute.
normal picture of Greg dancing with his daughter. That's nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then guys, I found the moment in which Greg sheds a tear. Here it is. Boom.
It looks like I've been off in the sauce.
There he is. Look at him.
I don't think.
Yep.
that's
You
what
look
it
like
is.
you're sleepy too, Greg.
She's telling me something in my ear.
He's
the whole
long-
time
no.
you're talking.
Greg, I think he drank after Bubba. I don't think what.
Yeah,
No, there he
Bubba
is.
thought he was sleepy. Look at me.
There he is, crying like a baby. Yep. getting the last of his butterfly kisses.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you?
That's a horrible picture.
Can I
There's
tell
no
you?
way with that.
Watching Adler, because Sherry and I were right next to you, and Sherry's like, "Why is Adler so giddy?" I said, "He thinks he's seeing a side of Greg he's never seen before."
Guys, Greg was okay. Here's Greg before the wedding, picture like a donkey carrying anvils. That's Greg.
Yeah.
All right, just walking around like that. I swear, after the wedding, he came over to shake my hand. This is his walk. Okay.
So before he had the weight of the world on him.
Yeah, it had been lifted.
Sauntering.
It had been lifted.
Right. Of course, you couldn't think about how much it cost. But
No, that's today when I started thinking.
That's
about that.
today,
So
but-
it carried 2 days of glee.
There's a picture with Greg. He's got a root beer bottle in his hand on our Facebook page. He's got a plate full of food. The wedding is over, and you can just see the joy. And it's like he's like, you know how people feel after they get saved? Like, a weight's been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
This is what Greg is like. So that's available on our Facebook page.
yeah. Well,
I do appreciate your footage. I didn't know you got all that.
Now,
Yeah, a little bit.
Adler, your job on the show is what?
No one knows.
Okay.
He just runs in and out of that back room every now and then.
He does RBTV streaming.
Okay, that's what I thought, because you did a lot of visual stuff. So I was wondering, very little of what you did was for the radio, but you did a lot of stuff for your own content.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, well, you got to look after his own department.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Just wanna
if
make
you
sure
want to
I'm doing
see the photo album and all the stuff that Adler captured, go to our Facebook page. If you go to rickandbubba.com, you'll see our Facebook page right there. Just click on it or go directly. We come back, we have the caterer of the wedding standing by.
Oh, Lord.
And a few other stories that happened from the wedding. Frank
And
Caliendo.
all this in a barn, Frank.
Yes.
All of this.
I love it.
Fancy barn.
We'll be back. More Rick and Bubba next. We're recapping the Rick and Bubba royal wedding this past weekend. It was beautiful. It went great. Thanks for all the prayers about the rain and all that. We didn't have any issues with the rain at all. Beautiful venue, great food. And Bubba, Mike, who actually catered the event, we talked to Mike on Friday. And
Mike had it going on at the wedding now.
Yeah, now he was sweating profusely, but he was really getting after it. Mike, another great job, buddy. It was. We enjoyed the food. It was fantastic. Of course, I only ate the healthy things, as you saw. But
hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, something I got to figure out now. Bubba was like almost the first of the line, and you were the last one in line. Now, I don't know. I might have missed a couple of times when you went through, but how did you end up being the last of the line?
Well, there was this. You know how when you start thinking about when this little sound effect that we use here. I thought, as being the person who officiated it, I thought that I would kind of be free and clear. But it dawned on me pretty quick that if I'm the person telling everybody when to go to the reception, they will all be in front of me. And then I was told, stay right here for pictures to follow. And I knew then that I would be the last person to eat, which was fine.
But you were held over because Dad gave you a half-drink root beer that held you till you got up.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, he did.
And see what had made it worse for me. Bobby Watkins, the proprietor there of the property, was giving me the tour of his barn. So I went in before the wedding and I saw the food they had out. Man, I'm telling you, that was
fired up.
Woo.
Yeah, it was good.
I said, I'll be back.
Bubba was pretty quick in line. He was up there towards the front, but we knew something was up when he left without his cheese straws.
Yeah, that was more panic. There was a couple things Bubba did that he should understand that he did cause panic. And I know it was overdone, but you do understand why we panicked.
I thought, really, I thought if I just vapor, I'll keep, all that down. So
right.
We had cheese straws and no Bubba. I mean, we was ready to call the coroner. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Well, Mike, I'll be back to Alexander soon.
Yes. So, but hey.
Hey, we got you some more. Hey, Bubba, did you get your cheese straws? Because Rick was supposed to bring them to you.
Oh, I think they got. They went in another direction.
Yeah.
We'll send them to you.
I had to make an audible there.
Greg, Rick, I need y'all's mom to work with my wife. You know what? I've known her, 35 years, probably something like that, something I didn't know. Saturday, I fixed her a plate, took it to her. I turned around and looked, and she gave it to your dad. I'm like, what is going on with this? My wife has never got a plate of food and given it to me.
Well, again, I think Mom was just taking the path of least resistance because she knew if Dad went in there, he would start handing people food that people had half eaten on the other tables.
So, I'm a little.
This latest thing of him serving people.
Rick, I'm a little worried about those ribs I ate now. I don't know where they came from.
Mike, great job, buddy.
Very good job.
Hey, thank you. Hey, y'all might want to run through those pictures and see if Angie made it in all the pictures because she made it in line about 30 minutes before you got in there. So she might have skipped out of some of those family pictures.
I know my sister. This was her time to finally get her to come after get revenge on us. But yeah, she had little kids too, and you still get when you still have little kids, it's
her
a whole
kids
different
will take
experience.
you to front of
Yeah, think of that, Mike. Speaking of our experience, you know how everybody, the family's all trying to come together. Well, I had not really paid attention on what my oldest son was coming from Atlanta. And so he was just going to come to the wedding. My two teenage sons who still live at home, which enough said. You're talking about if you say teenage boys. So Lisa, Greg's wife, was talking to me, and she said, "Well, I just think they'll be perfect for that." And I heard over her to the side, and I was like, "What are y'all talking about?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to have your sons handle everyone signing in the guest book." Well, I thought, okay, well that sounds pretty mild. I don't know how you could mess that up other than the pen falls off the table and you pick it up, hand it back to somebody. And then she said, oh, well, we've come up with this idea that one of them will take Polaroids of everyone and then the other will put it in the book and have the people sign under their picture.
Next to the barn.
Which I thought was pretty creative.
And I thought, so my guys are doing that? That sounds like, so we walk up. So my wife, they went ahead of us, drove ahead of us because they were going with their big brother to Atlanta after it was over. So we come walking up. Well, my wife rightfully so, doesn't want anything to take away from the wedding at all. Let's have no drama. Let's don't do this. This wedding needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be done perfect. So we walk up. She looks down in the guest book, looks down immediately. They've already taken their pictures.
Yeah.
And they've put them in there, and they're all going, and they're making goofy faces. And my wife, and now the line's starting to form. She goes, take those pictures out. And I said, just let it go. Let it go. We're going to bog the line down. You're not going to have those goofy pictures. Why did y'all do goofy face pictures in this way? And they're like, Mom, we just thought Chandler would think that was funny. Like that. Get those pictures out. And I'm like, honey,
and now you're trying to pull them out and they're stuck.
Yeah. And I said, you're gonna tear the guest book up. I said, this is going to have to stand. They've defeated us.
There's no time
precedent.
Right.
Precedent.
This is going to have to stand. Chandler, Greg's daughter, will have pictures of her cousins with goofy faces.
And it was good.
Hey, Greg, when y'all were taking the pictures outside,
they were slightly off what they were.
I was actually looking out the window of the barn. Did you hear me yell slightly off? I don't know if you heard that or not.
But Greg, the pictures they did were slightly off. That's what they did. They have a little look on your face. It's kind of just a little slightly off.
Yeah, it's not completely
like Frank's
off.
son when he takes the headset off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I made this call too. I didn't realize that if you officiate the wedding, people let you make very important calls. I thought that I'm just supposed to do what the wedding director tells me to do. So we're standing there, and we know that the chances of a thunderstorm are high, and the wedding's supposed to start at 6. Well, the guest book thing was a beautiful idea, but it also takes time. Now the guest book thing, and I don't know how 6 o'clock sneaks up on people. It's just math. I mean, just back time so you can arrive at the wedding on time.
It's even easier. It's a straight line. I mean, it doesn't get any easier.
So people are getting bogged down. So the wedding director is standing next to me, and she goes, we got to start here in about 3 minutes, and there's people on the line. And I didn't. And all of a sudden, you know how somebody lets you make the call, you didn't know you had the call. Kind of like that time that referee asked me if I wanted him to leave, and I was like, "Wait a minute, is that my call?" Yes, yes, I do. So she says, "What do you think we should do?" I said, "Whoa, is this my call?" And she said, I said, tell everybody to go sit down. I said, we can come back and do the guest book after, but we have to start the wedding on time. Because if this thunderstorm hits us, we have to start. So I apologize to those of you that might not have got your picture in the guest book, but at least you got to sign it. And Greg, you said you agreed with that call.
Oh yeah,
we had to start it on time.
Yeah,
Me and Hams was having a discussion about that. Why do you wait till the last minute? I mean, a 6 o'clock wedding means she walks at 6. So
Right.
That's right.
You got pregame going on before that.
Yep. It's just simple.
That's why I
math.
got there at 4:30.
You know what I mean? It's just simple math. But you know where that puts you, though? You end up in standing room only then.
Yep.
So
I didn't know that. I just showed up at 6.
Really? Are you that guy?
I didn't know. Now
He's
my
that
wife
guy.
would have known.
Rick and Bubba.
Right now, he'll get you lined up and ready to go. At the end of 30 seconds, this is going to happen. The buzzer gets you. The next person gets their opportunity, unless Helmsy or Bubba calls a timeout, but they only have one apiece. They can expand on a total of 2 calls only. This was designed many years ago when people were saying, hey, I can't ever get in. So what we started doing was saying, let's come up with something that kind of gets rapid fire, and a lot of you have an opportunity to get in. Now, remember, we are staying away from shameless plugs or meaningless shout-outs. Those, of course, are instant buzzer. We're asking ourselves.
Hold on, I'm out then.
Okay. That's right. Frank, that means you must live.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, right. well, Frank, see you, buddy. It's been a blast. But we're asking the question, if you were listening to the show and you heard your own phone call, would you be informed? Would you be entertained? Or would you find yourself saying, I think I'd be annoyed? So let's learn that lost talent of culling oneself.
Yeah, good luck.
Let's start with Greg in Columbus, Mississippi. Trolling.
Keep them phones a trolling.
Here we come, phone trolling. Phone troll. All right, Greg, you're on. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. Just now getting up in the truck because of all the rain this morning. And to let you guys know, my son and I have golden ticket seats for tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Can't wait to see Frank Caliendo tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
In the studio, man. Get to shake his hand. That'd be great. Looking forward to that.
I know you guys. Did you tell him? You want me to tell him?
What?
He thinks you're going to be here
Tomorrow?
Yeah, on the show.
Oh.
You're here in spirit.
Well, maybe I'll figure out a cardboard cutout of me.
Right.
We can show him some footage of you on here today.
Yeah, you could repurpose some stuff.
Yeah, we could.
I had some really great moments.
Yeah.
Lee in Montgomery, I-92 WLWI. Lee, go ahead.
Hey, 2 quick questions for Frank. 1, do you do any Asian accents? And number 2, any road rage bits?
Those are odd questions.
Asian accent? No. I thought about if there was a way I could try and pull that off. No, I try not to make fun of people. No, I try not to make fun of an actual accent or a way a person talks. I try to find more of the difference in the culture.
Good answer.
No, really. I work with a guy.
Yes. Very uncomfortable right now.
No. I thought that was a.
No, because we do Asian.
I do an Asian accent.
Oh, that's I did.
And he actually is making fun of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing with them.
No, I'm just on a higher level. And
yes, right. Well, there's no doubt about that.
So
Frank, I'll be honest with you, you don't have to be very high.
I was about to say,
So basically above us.
That's more of a hill, not a mountain you climb there.
So the last caller basically said, I'm a huge fan of Asian accents and road rage comedy.
2 things.
That's basically what she
that
had.
we've done. It started, in all fairness, it started when Bubba and I were kicked out of an all-you-can-eat Asian buffet. It really happened.
And we were telling the story, so you had to kind of talk like they did to make a point.
Because it really did happen.
well, that fits then. That
It
makes
really
sense.
did.
Yeah.
You eat no more. You eat too much. And that really happened.
Right.
You leave now.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't come back. So then that became, anytime there's an angry Asian story, I would do that accent.
All right. Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not mean.
I'm not going to
Be unrealistic.
You're Frank. I'm not going to.
You're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Not even not with chopsticks.
You used to eat so much. Now you're so small. What happened? You leave buffet no more. And stuff like that. So
and the fact that
was that a guy
one
or
of
a man or a
can
woman?
be either one.
Yeah.
Could be either one.
There go another one.
It sounded like your nails were going to get done after.
See, now you're in. Now you're right in.
No, it's a quiet.
And Frank, to try to work off the debt we had created by overeating at the buffet, they assigned us the job of dog catcher.
Bubba.
Oh.
You be dog catcher.
You dog catcher. Big net.
I am uncomfortable.
Did you see how quick though he joined us?
Yeah.
We take long. We continue. 866 We Be Big.
Bubba, you look like Buddha.
Stop. Let me rub you. You take your shirt off. We worship you. All right. David in Montgomery.
Frank, would you see what here right now?
I-92 WLW.
Frank just got out.
Yeah, stay 4 hours next time.
I'm starting to realize 3 is the right amount of time.
David, go ahead.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, just real quick, how come Frank can't spin the wheel with me? And also, is there any way we can get Dickie Atmeyer to convince Morgan Freeman to be an Alabama fan? That would be awesome.
All right, so
tough
one,
phone.
I got it. One, he wants to know if Frank can spin the wheel of meat because
Yeah.
it's not wheel of meat Wednesday, so they'd be
I've gotten a lot of that. They wish he would have been
Oh,
here
I didn't
on a
even think
Wednesday.
about that.
If I could have Morgan Freeman spin that wheel, good night.
And then the other was
wheel of
Dickie
meat.
Nadmeyer.
Well, that's going to get me in some trouble, son. That's how I got in trouble in the first place. Spinning the wheel of meat.
Can I do that?
Well, that's good right there.
Frank, when you're on the phone,
I didn't say anything bad, right?
no. Frank,
My
when you're
shows are very clean.
when you're
They're
on
very
the,
clean.
when you're on the phone, like ordering a service or something, do you ever mess with people and go into those?
You
voices?
have to.
No. I
Frank.
use my powers for good, not evil.
So Morgan Freeman's never ordered cable service.
No, let me tell you what.
Is that what you're telling
Let me tell you
me?
what Frank just said. We are not allowed to be talented enough to do it because we would abuse it.
That's true.
Yeah.
God did not give you all
He's
that
risen
ability.
to a new level, Rick.
No, you think I wouldn't go Morgan Freeman when I couldn't get somebody to come out and check that cable? Well, that's unfortunate. I wish I could do it. All right.
I'm just trying to figure out where I could go with some of this stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing was the Dickie Nadmeyer.
Yeah, he wanted Dickie Nadmeyer, who is a huge University of Alabama football fan, to convince Morgan Freeman to join and become a fan too.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Morgan Freeman, if he wants to be the best, he pull for the Tide, Road Tide.
I'm rolling.
Wait a minute, that line's already been used.
That's so good. That's good. I'd like to see Frank Caliendo do some impression of Nick Saban. Road Tide. All right, we continue. Let's go to. He says he wants to ask Mike a question. Who is Mike?
Well, let him ask him.
All right, Barry
Somebody
and
be
Gadsden.
Mike. Michael Helms?
Z93. Is it a Helms question? All right, go ahead, Barry.
Frank, you're so fat the back of your neck looks like a package of hot dogs. Are you a dwarf or a midget?
Dwarf. Yeah. There's six of my friends and I hang out with Snow White. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Ricky never mentioned Mike.
Who was Mike? Okay. We continue. Let's go to Russ and Gadsden, Z93. Russ, go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, the Monkey Grass and Green Acres.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you,
call,
sir.
buddy.
Hey, I was just wondering what's happened to Mike Tyson. He hadn't been in the news lately. Last I heard, he'd moved to West Virginia and said he wanted to try some mountaineers.
Usually it's pretty good when Mike Tyson isn't in the
I started
news.
to say, shouldn't we celebrate that?
Yeah.
I just heard the joke he tried to make at the end. Y'all hear
Yeah,
that?
I did too.
Mountaineers.
Mountaineers.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Is this that thing when people try to do jokes to a comedian?
Which is a
How many
huge
people
mistake.
try to tell you a
I don't
joke?
know. I couldn't tell.
That's one of the most socially awkward things
No,
I've ever been.
people try and do impressions
Oh,
for
I
me.
bet.
And they come up, and that's the weirdest because they'll start doing things for my act, or they'll do.
Oh, and you want to disappear so
or
bad.
Yeah, because I don't know what to do. Because I don't
If you
care.
could vanish.
Unless somebody does some really offbeat, weird impression. Some like every night somebody goes, "Hi, Kermit the Frog here."
Everybody's got that.
That's only when it comes up.
And if they're not saying Kermit the Frog, I don't know that it's Kermit the
Yeah,
Frog.
yeah.
It's not, "Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here." It's, "Hi ho, Kermit the Frog." Like that evil Kermit the Frog from the last Muppet movie they did. Yeah, they'll do that with Yoda. They'll be like, "No, the Force is mysterious." I'm like, what happened to Yoda? You get hit by a Dagobah truck or what? Is that the road rage bit we were looking for?
Why does anybody think that's the right thing to do?
I don't know, because you don't go up to a doctor and start checking people's reflexes. Hello, doctor. And ding. Your knee is fine. I don't know what that does. Turn your head to the side.
Yeah, I mean,
It
is.
Babinski.
We saw, Bubba and I saw one of the worst, and Greg too, one of the worst ones
Don't do it again.
ever. Backstage concert, James Gregory's back there with us, very funny comedian. And all of a sudden, and we all saw it like a terrible crash. Hey, James, I got a joke I want to tell you. And I'm like, oh,
And
no.
this is a guy who's in the band.
Oh, no.
It was a horrible joke.
And the joke was...
And he delivered it bad.
And he delivered it
Well,
bad.
it wasn't a funny joke at all.
It wasn't a funny joke. It was delivered terribly. And James Gregory stood up and left the dressing room.
Did not say a
Didn't
word.
say-
Did
didn't
not
respond
crack a
in
smile.
any way, just,
left. And
I'm
we
gone.
Are you
died.
sure you guys weren't set up for a bit there? That they do that every time?
Could be.
I hope so. No, I don't think so. It was so bad.
I like organic comedy where things come from just talking.
Right.
But when somebody comes up and tells you a joke, the reality of a joke that somebody tells you, it's usually way too long.
Yes.
So, so it's 3 minutes
Yeah.
to get to a little punchline. And there's probably 1 out of 100 times where you go, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
But you can't even stop the person in the what. Listen, you're not supposed to stop the person. I'll just stop the person and go, I've heard that.
Because most of them they've been around a while.
Yeah, a lot of the jokes. And this is usually a version of 1 of 3. They just changed it from, Ernie is the guy's name to Stosh or something like that.
Speedy, would you
depending
like
on your
to do-
region of the country.
Would you like to do Kermit?
No, because unless you say I'm Kermit the Frog, whatever, that's about it.
Yeah, everybody's goes,
Hey, Kermit the Frog.